And we're live. Welcome to RockSim Live. I am Tim Van Milligan. I'm your host. And this is where we talk about the RockSim software, RockSim, RockSim Pro, and the Launch Visualizer, because it's all in the same family. Thank you for being here today. I do have the chat going over here in a monitor. And we have a few people that have already checked in and said hello. We had Colin, and he says, fantastic company that is out of this world amazing. And then 2 hearts, 3 thumbs up, and 2 gold medals. Well, thank you, Colin. We have Chris's Rocketry and more saying hello. And 462 Tool from North Dakota. And Troy Armit from Riverton, Utah, and Terry Wheelock, and Art Applewhite from Texas, and Marcel from Parker, Colorado, and Kevin's Models and More from Las Vegas, and David King from San Diego. So, that's a name I haven't seen before. David, welcome to RockSim Live. Thank you for coming. And Tom Pauley from Madison, West Virginia. That's, again, a name I haven't seen before in the RockSim Live, so thank you for being here. So what this is about is for you to give me your questions about RockSim, and I can answer them here live. And if you're not watching live, you can send in your questions via email. And we'll get to them next week. I was supposed to be here last week, Friday, and then Martin was going to take over, and he was going to do a session on altimeters. And he was here, and he was set up, but the computer system was giving him fits. It kept crashing on him. So he had to punt and give up, unfortunately. So while we wanted to be here, we had technical difficulties. So we apologize for that, but we are here today, and I can answer your questions. So go ahead and send them in. Don't have any questions yet, so I don't know what I'm going to talk about, except for saying hello to Rosa in Ottawa and Sturk03 from Pennsylvania. Last week was Thanksgiving. I was actually out of town. I was visiting my daughter in Florida, and it was nice warm weather. It was overcast pretty much the whole time, but it was nice and warm. It was in the 70s, and I wanted to get to the beach, but we didn't get to the beach. There was a SpaceX launch, and I slept through it because it was 2 o'clock in the morning. Had I known, I would have stayed up for it. Yeah, so I was depressed about that, but I had a good time in Florida, and I had a great Thanksgiving with my family down there. So anyway, where are we? Let's go to my desktop. So if you are new to RockSim, you get it here at apogeerockets.com. We make the software, and to find it on our website, there's this scrolling banner, and it's going through the Christmas gifts. And incidentally, if you like a Christmas gift, we can ship in time. Here's the RockSim 10. You can click on that. Here's the Launch Visualizer, and this will open up a new window and take you to the Launch Visualizer, because that's the cloud version. It's all online. So again, you just go through the scrolling banner bar until you find the RockSim ad. Come on, where are you? Right there. If you click on that, it will take you to, RockSim 10 is available, and this was in June of 2021. You can download the free trial right there. You can order it right there, and if you have a version 9, you can upgrade it free. So that was cool. Also, if you click on the how-to and guides up here at the top, and you come down here to software, and this will give you some general information, again, downloading the free trial, where to purchase it, basics of what is RockSim, the features, the frequently asked questions, system requirements, version history is all in this column. There's video tutorials here. One of the common frequently asked question is loading missing motors back into RockSim. RockSim live training, which is what we're doing right now. And if you click on that, it takes you to our archive page. And this archive, we're on episode number 146. Today is December 1st, 2023. Once we get this session in the bag, this will be archived here as well, and it will have all the topics listed here. Okay, we got some people talking already. Cool. Tom Pauly asks, GPS parachutes, how is it coming? So what is Tom talking about? If you go to the shopping menu and you come down here to electronics and payloads, click on that, and why this doesn't even have an image there. That's interesting. It's not listed there. Let's try gliding parachute. So the gliding parachute, and then we sell 3 different sizes, a 24, 28, and 32. Now those sound small, but those are actually highly efficient. And so they can take a bigger rocket than you'd think. So when you click on that, what this is a parachute that is a gliding parachute. So it's shaped like a wing, and it will actually glide. And the advantage of that is you can steer it. So you can go left or right, and you can penetrate into the wind, go crosswind, go downwind, and you can land the rocket where you want. And it's radio controlled right now. And the radio control equipment is inside this little payload bay, which slides inside the rocket. So the smallest rocket that this will fit into is a BT-80, 2.6 inches. So, and that's determined by this payload bay where the electronics are, because that has to go inside your rocket. So what Tom is asking about is the GPS version. Originally, we wanted it to be GPS. And the advantage of GPS is you don't have to control it. The GPS controls it, and it just glides it back down. The way we had it set up was where you turned it on was where it would fly back to. So if you turn it on at the launch pad, hopefully it will try to fly back right to the launch pad. Because of COVID, we had, and the difficulties of getting electronic components, we had to shelve the GPS version. And Tom is asking, well, when is the GPS version going to be available? And I don't have an answer for you. I need to check with my developer on that, see if the component shortage has alleviated itself. We recently, this past summer, did a new version of the GPS tracker, and we had the same problems with that, where we had problems getting components, but some of the components are available again. But the GPS controller for the gliding parachute and the GPS tracker, they use different components. So I can't say for sure if the component issue is straightened out. So I don't have an answer for you, Tom. I'm sorry. And Terry Wheelock says, build a rocket-powered Santa sleigh. I don't think I can. David King says, I just purchased RockSim Pro yesterday. Will everything be the same as RockSim? That's a good question. So there's 2 versions of RockSim. There's the regular version of RockSim and then RockSim Pro. Again, if you go to How-To and Guides, come down here to Software. Here's RockSim Pro Tutorials. There is some differences. So these are the tutorial videos for RockSim Pro. The biggest difference, who's that said this? David. So I have RockSim Pro open here. So this is RockSim Pro. The biggest difference between RockSim and RockSim Pro is setting up dual deployment. It's different in RockSim Pro. RockSim Pro gives you a lot more features, and where you notice this the most is in dual deployment setup. Because in RockSim Pro, you can actually deploy the parachute while the rocket's going up. And that can cause some confusion, because if you set your parachute to deploy at 600 feet, RockSim Pro assumes that it's going to deploy the first time it sees 600 feet, and that's usually going on the way up, not coming on the way down. So like here we have a peregrine rocket, and this is a dual deployment rocket, and it's got 2 parachutes inside. So we got one parachute up here or one parachute down there. And if I go to 2D, you can see the parachute. So here's the first parachute, and then back here is the second parachute. And so here's the smallest parachute. And if I click on this, click on that, here's the bigger one, the 48-inch parachute. So when you're setting up dual deployment, what you're going to do is you're going to go prepare for launch like you normally do. You're going to select your rocket engine. And I'm just going to choose that one. And I'll choose 10 seconds. Doesn't really matter, because in dual deployment, we're going to let the electronics determine when the parachute comes out. So under flight events, here we have the 2 events. The first one is the 48-inch parachute, and this is our drogue parachute. So the drogue parachute, you can set it to deploy at Apogee, because that's your electronics is going to deploy it at Apogee. So you're going to set that one to deploy at Apogee. Now your big one, we're going to set it to deploy coming down. So basically we're going to create like a little formula here. And the formula says the first criteria is that the rocket has to reach Apogee. So it has to go up, reach Apogee, and then we want it coming back down. So the first part of the formula is it has to hit Apogee. So at this point, both parachutes are set up to deploy at Apogee. But you see this little plus right here. This means we're going to add another event. So the first event was it has to hit Apogee. When I click the plus, you see it creates another line. And then we're gonna set this one to an altitude. So now we're going to set the altitude here. Let's say we're going to deploy this at 600 feet. But you see this little test criteria column right here? Right now, it's set for greater than 600 feet. We want it to be coming downwards. When it hits below 600 feet, that's the point where we want the ejection to occur. So there's 3 criteria. The first one, it has to hit Apogee. And then the second one is it's got to be below and then 600 feet, that altitude. At this point, it's set up. And then let's run a simulation real quick. So my starting state is I got a 98-inch launch rod. So here is the other thing that's different in RockSim Pro. We have the launch rod from vertical, which is like RockSim, but it has here an azimuth angle. So think of this one as a compass, where north is straight up, south is down, this is east to the right, and to the left is west. So right now I'm at 7.125 degrees pointing to the north. And if I want to change direction, so if I want to go east, I have to make that 90 degrees. If I want to go west, it would be minus 90 or 270. They're both the same. And then south would be 180 degrees. Now that's going to make a difference depending on your launch site. So under my launch conditions, I can choose a site. Now, when you first get RockSim Pro, there's no sites inside RockSim Pro. You have to add them yourself. And to add them, you're going to need to know the latitude and the longitude of your launch site and the altitude above sea level of your launch pad. So you need to know those three things. And where do you get that information? Well, when I first got RockSim Pro, I used Google Earth, but now I use the Launch Visualizer because it's actually a little quicker. So the Launch Visualizer, let me open up a new browser here. It's a new window. Okay, so here's the window, and I'm going to go to rocksim.com, which is the Launch Visualizer. And it's got to load it. This is going to take a second. Let me try to change the size of the window, get a drink here. Okay, so then I'm going to log in. And I'm going to find my account, sign in. And so now I'm signed in, and now I'm going to go here to select the launch site. And this is where I go to pick launch sites. So in the Launch Visualizer, it's going to show a map here, and it's going to be zoomed in at a particular launch site. This is the generic site, which happens to be Pueblo, Colorado, where I fly rockets. So if I zoom out here, so here is the flight line right here, the launch pad is right here, and if I swing this around, this arrow points north, and I'm zooming out with my scroll wheel, and you know kind of get the lay of the land. Here's Pueblo, Colorado right there. If you're more familiar with Colorado Springs and Denver, here's Colorado Springs, there's Denver, here's the state of Colorado. If I keep zooming out, you'll see the entire United States. Each of these little thumbtacks is a launch site that it's a club launch site. So the red ones are NAR, the blue ones are Tripoli, and the green ones are ones that people have submitted that aren't NAR or Tripoli. So if you know a launch site, you know, you can, you know, like this one right here, if you click on the little thumbnail, it'll tell you what launch club that is. So that's Kansas Organization for Space Modeling. So then, if I want to get the exact coordinates of that, I can either zoom in. I don't know, I forget which one I clicked on. Which is this one? They're probably both Kansas. That's site number 2. That's site number 1. So we can keep zooming in and just move it around. And you can see, get the lay of the land of, you know, where this launch pad is. So it looks like there's lots of fields around here. And, you know, we can see a road there. Looks like there's a house there. I do not know what that is right there. It doesn't look like water. Maybe it is water. Maybe that's a little pond, and it's you know, the sky reflecting off the water. Okay, so if I was flying at this launch site, you can see I got a lot of room. I can go in any direction I want, but I need the latitude and the longitude coordinates. So I could just select them here. See, it gives me the latitude and the longitude and the altitude above sea level. Oh, it just jumped to a different launch site. But what happens is, you know, you could say you wanted to fly at a new launch site. So here is some nice open land, and I say, hey, that's a really nice piece of land right there where I want to fly my rocket. So I just double click right there, and it brings up it puts a dot right there, and then when I click confirm launch site, it's going to readjust all these coordinates right here. So, why did it do that? It moved again. That's not where I was. I was over here somewhere. Confirm launch site. Okay, so then it gave me a new latitude. So then I could take these coordinates here, and then I can put them into RockSim Pro. So I'm going to copy that one, and I'm going back to RockSim Pro, and that was the latitude. Paste it in there, and go back over here. Nope, not that. There we go. I want the longitude. Copy that. Come here to RockSim, put that in there. And then I need the altitude as well. Here's the altitude right there, 4875. Copy that. And I'm going to put that here for the altitude for the launch site and the landing zone. I'm going to assume the landing zone is like about the same difference. So now why is there two? Well, you could be launching at the top of a mountain, which is going to be higher than anywhere below it. So, you know, you could, that's why there's two. And then you can give it a name. I'll put this one as the Pueblo Reservoir. And I'm going to save the launch site. And then I can do a flight profile. And this is the other thing that RockSim Pro is different, is it's got the launch visualizer already built into it. It's thinking right now. And we'll bring it up here in just a second. My computer is running really slow because I got a lot of different programs going on. So while it's doing that, Stark03, he says, in the flight visualizer, can you show a Saturn V with two separate bodies and two chutes coming down and where they might land, or are you limited to a single body and one chute? Okay, we can answer that question. Okay, so here's the rocket sitting on the launch pad, and I'm zooming out, and I'm going to swing it around so that north is up. Okay, so somewhere in here is the rocket, and when I click the launch button, the rocket takes off. You can see that there's a small or larger version of here. Here's the small version where you can see the smoke. So the white smoke is set up for thrust smoke. The blue is for tracking smoke. And this line here is the trajectory. And it's starting to come down now. These red vertical lines are just kind of like a curtain, an imaginary curtain, so that we can see this right here, which is the ground path. And what happened was the rocket went up, it came down, the drogue chute came out. At that point right there where the dog leg occurs, the main parachute came out, so I'm guessing that's around 600 feet because that's what we had it set at. And then it lands over there. And then it's going to replay the simulation over again. I'm going to pause it right here and then spin it around. So you can see that this is 3D. Which is really cool. Oh, there's something over here that's nice and green. What is that? I have no idea what that is. Some kind of, I don't know, maybe a sewage pond? Who knows? Anyway, so let's get to it. So that's the basic differences, David, with RockSim and RockSim Pro. You're going to, the difference, you know, the design part is identical. It's the simulation part where there's extra stuff. It's 6 degrees of freedom, so you get a lot of more information. So here was our last flight. This one only went to 965 feet. All right, so Stark03 says he wants to see a Saturn V that comes down in 2 parts. So first, let me open a Saturn V, and we're going to have to modify the design, and we have to do that so that there's 2 pieces. And come on, open. You have to set this up. You got to trick it. You can do it. The trick, let me show you on the website. Right here, let's go back to this. Boy, that's opened up really slow. So go to How To and Guides. Come down here to Software. And go to the RockSim Video Tutorials. And here, in TARC video number 6, it shows how to have the rocket come down in 2 separate pieces using middle separation. And so that's what we're going to set up. Basically, we're going to trick RockSim, because in order for it to come down in 2 separate pieces, you have to have it set up as a 2-stage rocket. Now, I'm just thinking it might be possible you could set it up as a single-stage rocket with a pod. But there's got to be a motor in the pod. So essentially, either way, you're going to have 2 motors in there. So let's set this up. Here's an Apogee Saturn V rocket. So let's open that. So I'm in RockSim Pro, but you can do this in RockSim as well. Eventually, we're going to take it and we're going to go into the launch visualizer. But you have to modify it either in RockSim Pro or RockSim to make it into a 2-stage rocket. So here's my Saturn V, and I want to split the rocket right here, because this is where it comes down in two pieces. So we got to set this up as a 2-stage rocket. So to turn it into a 2-stage rocket, first you have to go to the Rocket Design Attributes tab, and you got to say, hey, it's got to be a 2-stage rocket. So change it from single stage to 2-stage. Okay, so now you can go to the Design Components tab, and right now we just have the sustainer and the booster, but there's no parts attached to the booster. Everything is attached to the sustainer. So I'm going to grab everything that's below this point in the booster, and I'm going to move that to the bottom stage. And so I think from this point on, I'm just going to do a copy of those components. When I copy this, since all these other things are attached to it, they're going to get copied at the same time. So I'm going to select the tube and then go File, Edit. I can either do a copy right there, or I can right-click on it on the part right here and do a copy. So I've copied it, and now I'm going to come down to the booster, and I'm going to paste those components onto the booster. So right now there's an imaginary booster down here, and there's nothing attached to it. And so when I attach it, what's going to happen is we're going to get a duplicate of this part right here added to the back, because I haven't deleted these parts right here yet. I will, but I'm going to pause here and just add them first. So I'm going to do a right click on the booster. Come on. Or maybe I go paste. Okay, so it pasted it, but you don't see it because it's hidden right now, because I'm only showing the upper stage. So if I come down here and show the second stage, now you can see it. Now you can see there's this weird thing coming off here. What is that? Those are probably the fins. Okay, so since I have the booster stage there, now I'm going to take this tube right here. I'm going to delete it. So I'm going to delete. I'm going to say yes. Okay, so now it looks like a single stage rocket again. But here's the 2-stage and here's 1-stage. All right, so that worked. Now on this upper stage, in order to deploy a parachute, we need something to trigger it to come out. Every stage needs something, and what we use to trigger is a rocket motor. So I've got to put a rocket motor in there. So to put the rocket motor in there, I got to select this tube here and make it an engine mount. So right now this is not set as an engine mount. So I'm going to edit this tube. I'm going to say this is a motor mount. So I'm going to check that button. And right now it says that it's looking for an 81 millimeter diameter motor. I'm not going to worry about that. I just want to say that this is where I could put rocket motors. This right here must be a coupler. So yeah, so I'm going to ignore that. That's why I couldn't use that one there. Because I'm not allowed to put motors inside couplers. Okay, so now I have my 2-stage rocket. I got one motor tube down here and one motor tube right there. And I'm going to save this, and I'm going to save it on my desktop so I know where it is, because this is now a modified rocket. So I'm going to do a save as. And Saturn V, I'm going to put it on my desktop. Saturn V, and I'll call it 2-stage. The other thing is I need a parachute in this upper stage. So I got this parachute right here in the bottom, but I don't have a parachute in the upper stage. And he asked if we could do 2 parachutes. So let's do another parachute. So I'm also going to put the parachute into this tube right here. Doesn't really matter. It just needs to be in one of the tubes. So highlight the tube and then come over here to parachute. Select it, and let's do a 18-inch nylon parachute and click OK. So you can see the parachute right there. Let's change that color of that parachute. Let's make it orange. Aren't you glad that I didn't make it red? Okay, so there is my parachute in the upper stage. Here's the parachute from the lower stage. I'm going to save it again because I've made a modification. It's showing my center of gravity like way up there. So what's going on there? It says use the valves used below for all the simulations, and I'm going to uncheck that. So when I uncheck it, then RockSim will calculate it. I'll just let it calculate it right now. I'll save it again because I made another change. Okay, so now I can go into the launch visualizer. Okay, so I'm gonna minimize that. I've already got the launch visualizer open here. Let me make this bigger so you can see it. Okay, so let's go back here to the main screen, and I'm gonna I can choose a design from the database, or I can upload a new design. So I'm going to upload the one that I just created, and I'm going to click the Browse button, and it's being slow. Let's go to the desktop. There's my Saturn V 2-stage that I just did. Click Open. And then you have to click the Upload button. So now it's uploading it into the cloud, into the server. Since I'm in my account, it's in my partition. It's not for everybody to use. Unfortunately, if I did that, then it would be like the database would be massive. So here's the rocket sitting on the launch pad. And I can zoom in, and you can see that this is a 3D rendering of the rocket. Now, as before, I can, that website or the launch site that I have, which is near the Pueblo Reservoir, right there. I think I'm going to angle it a little bit to the west. No, let's go to the south. So that's why I wanted to see where I'm launching from. And then I'm going to go to the starting state, and I want to give it a few degrees over, and I want to angle that down to the south. And you can look in the screen here. You can see I'm angled to the south, which is just what I wanted. I'll set my wind conditions, and I'm going to have a steady wind. I'll just make it 5 miles an hour and hit OK. Okay, so now I'm going to select my rocket motors. So here's the other trick. Okay, so you see there's 2 engine mounts. There's the 29 millimeter in the bottom, and then there's that 81 millimeter one that's here. So let me load the bottom one first. So I'm going to choose an engine. And it doesn't really matter what I'm going to choose. Let's go with something fairly big. A G74, and the ejection delay, let's make it 6 seconds. Click OK. Okay, so now the top one, we don't really want a motor up there because that would change the configuration. We need a motor to trick it, and there is built into the database in the launch visualizer a trick motor specifically for this type of event. So if I click on this and choose an engine, what I want to do is I want to show all engines. Come on, wake up. It's being really slow. It's kind of locked up. They're locked up. Okay, here we go. All engines, come on. All right, so now let's filter by diameter. And it will resort this list of all the engines by the diameter. And right now it's showing the largest to the smallest. Let's click on it one more time, and it will flip it around from the smallest to the largest. While I'm waiting for that, it's let's show, I think I made it into an Apogee motor. Nope, it's not an Apogee motor. Let's try in here. Let's try fake. Nope. All motors. Man, it's being slow. My computer is what? It's got so much going on. Oh, there's a Quest Micromax. And let's sort it by total impulse and see if I can find one that's smaller than the Micromax. Try it again. David King says he's still waiting for his to be activated. David, you should have got an activation code as soon as you signed up. If you did not get an activation code, email us like right away while we're still here this afternoon, so that we can reactivate, find that code for you. This is, come on. There. Okay, well, I swear I had a motor in here that was smaller than this. But we're going to use the Quest Micromax, and we're going to put that into the rocket. And I'm going to make it a custom delay of 0 seconds. So basically it's like a booster motor. And Bob Fresno, he says, create the center of the universe here. Ola from Toronto, rocket surgeons, zinc sulfur old timer, here just checking out modern electronics. Well, hello, Bob. Come on, click OK. There we go. Okay, so we got the Micromax loaded. Man, this is just going so slow on my computer. Okay, so the first, we have a G74 in the booster stage, and it's got an ejection delay of 6 seconds. So it's going to go up, and it's going to coast for 6 seconds, and then it's going to ignite that Quest Micromax. And I chose the smallest motor possible so that it doesn't really affect the altitude of the rocket. It's just going to go, we got a big rocket with a tiny motor, so it's really not going to do anything, but it's going to trigger the parachute. So at 0 seconds after motor burnout of that upper stage motor, which is kind of like instantaneously, so the rocket's going to go up, coast for 6 seconds, then that other motor is going to fire and then instantaneously deploy its parachute. So in effect, both parachutes are going to come out at the same time. Okay, so now that that's set up, now we can launch. Okay, so it's going to use 87 credits, and now it's going to run the simulation. And it's reloading the maps. And we have another person, X2 Melandi, says, I bought 2 floppy disks on RockSim over 20 years ago. I still have them. Holy cow, look what it did to this. It changed my configuration. But there's the rocket sitting on the pad, and somehow the configuration changed. So we can run the simulation. So it's going to be in the air for 32 seconds. So the rocket's taking off. It's going up. We're at 58, going up higher. It's still going up, still going up. So now it's in the coast phase. So it's going to coast for 6 seconds. And then after we get past, about 7 seconds, we should have the ejection of the parachutes. I think I had them, the default should be deploy at maximum ejection delay. So it's being obscured by the smoke right now. So there was 2 parachutes there. There it is. When the smoke goes away, I can see it. So here's the booster section, and it's falling down fast, and the upper stage is right there. And let me pause it right here and reorient the camera so you can see what's going on. So we zoomed way out there. And if you can't find your rocket, let's turn on the trajectory path and the extruded flight path, that curtain. Okay, so here is, the booster is already down to the ground. No, this is our launch point right there. The rocket went up, it went to the south. North is kind of down to the bottom right. Let me swing it around this way. Okay, so now north is, mostly to the upper part of the screen, because the rocket, it aimed south, it came over the top, and then the parachutes came out, And the deployment occurred, I can tell, right here. And the reason I can tell is if I follow the curtain, it's coming this way, and then all of a sudden it's going that way. So basically, the parachutes must be open because now the wind, we said we had a wind at 5 miles an hour coming out of the west. And so now it's pushing the rocket that way. And here's one part of the rocket, and the other part of the rocket is somewhere, I don't know where it went. Let's see. This is a 2-stage rocket, so if we click on multi-stage, we can, here's the trajectory path of the booster, and it will be a yellow color. Click OK. Okay, so here is the booster, and the booster is already down on the ground. It's right there. The booster did not drift very far because it fell like a rock. And I don't know why it fell like a rock. But at this point, you know, the rocket's in the sky. But the booster came down. It's the yellow path where it came down right there. And now the upper stage is coming down by itself. So you can see the 2 parachutes coming down. I must have something wrong because I don't know why that booster stage fell so fast. Because that's a bigger parachute, if I recall. It should have fell a lot slower. It will run a lot faster on your computer. My computer right now is being really slow because I got a lot of stuff going on. Since it runs in the cloud, it's fast. Okay, so here's my upper part of the parachute. It's going to land, like right now, it landed over here, and the rocket's taken off again, and it's going up. You can see it's going up over here on the left. So that's how to separate the rocket into 2 pieces. And so basically what you got to do is you got to put a fake motor in, and you got to make it like a 2-stage rocket. When you do that, it will allow you to track 2 different pieces coming down. And as I said, I think you can also do it with pods. But again, you need a motor in the pod. I think it'd probably be more complex doing it as a pod. So do it as a 2-stage rocket. Tom Pauly says, thank you, love your company. X2 Melandi says, click the like button. And Terry Wheelock says, hey, launch a rocket from down at the south tip of Texas. Well, okay. Let me pause this. So what's at the south tip of Texas? SpaceX? Let's stop that. Let's pick a new rocket. This time I'm going to pick a rocket out of the database. Man, this is slow. Wait a minute, I didn't want that. I didn't want to upload. I wanted to select a rocket design from the database, choose a design. And these are the designs I have already uploaded. So I will choose the Apogee Apprentice, click select, you can see it right there. Now we have to choose the launch site. So we're going to go to the south of Texas at the SpaceX launch site. Let's see what that looks like. So here's Colorado, here's Texas. We got to go to the Mexican border. Oops, we went into the Gulf of Mexico. So here's the South Texas. And SpaceX, they put their launch pad as like I don't know how close they are to Mexico, but they're really close. I lost my, let me make this map a little bigger. You can grab this bar here and slide it over. Terry Wheelock says, how do we design a lifting body in RockSim? That's a good question. I have to think about that one, Terry. Okay, so here is South Texas. I want this to open up bigger. There we go. So I can see, because I'm pretty sure the SpaceX launch pad, I'm just going down the coast until the map shows me something that might look like a launch pad. Like something like this. There we go. That's the Starship launch pad right there. That's the orbital launch mount. Let's see. Where might it be? Now this image, I think it's like right here. So double click on it, and that puts the launch pad right. I think that's pretty close. This image is not the best image. So that's where we're going to launch from. So I'm going to launch to the east. So I'm going to swing my rocket around to the east. And I'm at 11 degrees. And I've got winds. Come on. Steady wind at all altitudes, and it's set at still 5 miles an hour. Now, I need to choose a big motor for this rocket if I'm going to get into the Gulf of Mexico. So I'm going to choose the biggest 18 millimeter diameter motor that I can. Come on, choose an engine. Okay, so I'm looking something with the biggest, here's a D15 with 19 Newton seconds of power. I think that's going to be the biggest. Ooh, holy cow. No, I can't. I want something 18 millimeter because this rocket only has 18 millimeter. Okay, so again, the biggest one. Yeah, I got a Klima, but I can't get Klima because they're in Germany. Estes Aerotech. So we have a D24, that's 18 Newton seconds. And we have a D13, that's 19.1 Newton seconds. And let's make it a really long delay. Click OK. It's going to go arcing over. I just want to see if I can hit the water. Flight events. Let's never deploy this parachute. No deploy. So this way it's going to just arc into the water. And let's launch it. And let's confirm the launch site and simulate. Terry Wheelock says, oh, now launch from West Texas, just north of Van Horn. It's still loading the maps in the background. It's slowly loading them. It's just such a not a good image that they have in the maps. So it's going to be in the air for 73 seconds though. So the rocket's taking off. Let me zoom out. It should be going towards the east. I'm trying to zoom out so we can see where our rocket is. It's still going up. There we go. Now it's arcing over. We're not going to get it. The rocket is now just tumbling. And it's actually gliding. Oh, now it fell. Now it's flipped over. Oh, now it's going the other direction. It flipped over again. Look at that crazy, as soon as it's done, we'll show you this crazy trajectory. It's doing all kinds of crazy things here. Now it's gliding a little bit more. Now it's coming down. So, I guess, Terry, I've done the lifting body. Because it's actually gliding. I think right here is the beach. Are we gonna hit the water? I don't think we're going to. We're still 600 feet in the air. Oh, we're over the water. Success. As soon as it hits the water, I'll pause it. Oh, it's going back inland. Okay, so, all right, so look at that crazy trajectory. I'm trying to zoom out here. So we're kind of looking, the south is along the coastline. So if you follow the coastline, that's south into Mexico. I'm not sure where the actual border is of Mexico. But I know that SpaceX built their pad as far south as they could. So look at that crazy trajectory. That's just, to me, that's amazing. I get the biggest kick out of that. You know, just kind of like RockSim's trying to figure out what's going on. Because we didn't deploy a parachute, the rocket is tumbling. And in certain areas when it's tumbling, it's actually gliding, and it's gliding out towards the Gulf of Mexico. Then it flips over again and comes down, and then starts gliding again. Isn't that cool or what? I think that's cool. But I don't know where Van Horn, Texas is. I'd have to look it up on a map. Because one of the problems is, you know, you can come over here to select the launch site. Come on. And there's a search bar up here. And it's supposed to find locations, and it doesn't work. So if I type in something right there, Van Horn, Texas, and I hit return, basically nothing's going to happen. Yeah, see, nothing happened. So I had to find it manually, and I'd have to go to like maps or something to find Van Horn, Texas, and then search here. Johan says, yeah, time to simulate a Saturn V to the moon. I wish I could. Mark Selsing says, doesn't that flight path seem counterintuitive? I think it's as good as anything. You know, 'cause it's not going to be perfect. Van Horn. Texas. I'm just looking to see where Van Horn, Texas is. Even in maps, it's everything. My computer's just being real slow. So there's Van Horn. There's Eagle Peak. Oh, there's I-10. Okay, so now I'm getting myself situated. So here's New Mexico. Here's El Paso, Texas. So coming down from there, there's Van Horn. So you could do it. You just have to find it in the maps. So you have to zoom out. It's just being slow. On your computer, I guarantee it will run faster. Okay, so there is El Paso in that area, and we were looking. Oh, there's Van Horn. Look at that. Right there. And if I zoom in, there's Eagle Peak. And he wanted north, just north of Van Horn. So the crossroads right there is Van Horn. It's still zooming in. Looks like there's lots of land there. Now it's starting to turn brown. So at that point, you could select your launch site. So I'm just kind of looking for some open land, and there's like everything's wide open right here. It's like scrub. There's a nice little road right here. So I would come off this road, Texas 54, turn onto McVeigh Road, and I can say, I'm launching right there, and confirm my launch site. And at that point, you can launch your rocket again, and that would be just north of Van Horn, Texas. Johan says, yeah, you can just make an engine file for the first stage Saturn V. It must be doable, not dangerous. Okay. Maximo Delgado says, can you launch a two-stage rocket on the simulator on KSC on NASA? And the answer is yes. Just like we did, you'd have to find your launch site. So anywhere you put the dot, you can launch in the simulator. So if I wanted to go to Kennedy Space Center or Cape Canaveral, you know, I'd have to find the launch site. There's Florida. And I think these green dots are in the database. If you click on them, there's the launch pad at Kennedy Space Center. And there's the redstone pad. I think I've done this before in the first Alan Shepard's launch was right there on that pad. This map still shows Cape Canaveral Air Force Station, where now it's Space Force Station. So Bing needs to update their maps. So right in there is the launch pad that Alan Shepard used. So yeah, you can, anywhere on the globe. It's got to be on the globe though. And when you're simulating, it doesn't matter who owns the land because you can simulate on it. Now in real life, you probably won't be able to get out there and launch, but yeah, it's fun. Maximo says, I made a custom space agent called Cosmo Z, and my dream is make it my own space station. Cool. That's awesome. Go for it. So we're done. It's after 3 o'clock, so we've got to, sadly, we got to go. I got to do my daily, my weekly chores here. I'm also the janitor here at Apogee. So it's my turn to do the vacuuming. So that's what I'm going to do after this. Okay, there I am. So keep calm, fly rockets. And yes, we should be back next Friday, regular time. I hope my computer's faster. I kind of doubt it. It's not getting any older or any younger. So we were supposed to have a launch tomorrow, but they just canceled it because of the weather. This is like the first time they canceled our launch in a long time. So I'll be building rockets probably instead of flying. Okay, so we're going to close out of here in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Go out and launch something.